Call the meeting to order, please rise and pray.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here. Very good. Welcome, all the visitors. Got a crowd tonight. Good to see people here. All right. Moving on to the consent agenda. There was no finance committee meeting, but I would take a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting. Police for February report, municipal court report for February, and community development report for February. It's all part of the consent agenda. And I understand there are corrections need to be made to the minutes. You want to go ahead and address those all in one before us?
Yes, I just asked that they be corrected to include when Adam Couch spoke and
Okay, so the minutes will be approved based on the corrections. I'll take a motion to approve based on that. The consent agenda? Okay. Got a motion, second? Got a second motion. Flaherty, all in favor? 5-0. Consent agenda is approved. Mayor's report, pretty short tonight. First of all, Happy birthday to me. All right. Tomorrow, I travel to Lee Summit. I'm going to go to the Missouri Main Street Conference there. It has to do with when chaos hits downtown. Should be some interesting things I can bring back to the downtown collective. And I always like to do, I like to remind people to please register and vote. You've got 2 days left. The 11th is the last day to register to vote. If you haven't, please do so. At last count, which is February 4th, I contacted Jessica White at County. She said we had 3,725 people registered to vote in Odessa. Now I'd like to see half those people show up. We got kind of tired of this 10 to 13% stuff. That's just not good. So let's get out to vote. Whoever you want to vote for, that's your business. Let's get out to vote. Let's make it happen. All right. So that's my report. Mayor report. Going on. Mikey?
I have nothing to say, sir.
Alderman Jerry?
I'll second what you said, just like last week. Get out and vote, people. There's a lot of things on the ballot that have a lot of impact on our community. And if you want your voice to be heard, that's one way you can do it. Another way is to be here tonight, like you've done. I appreciate that. Hopefully, some comments, you can share some of your thoughts. Or the Ward 3 Town Hall that happens every month here on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Please come and share there. Know that forum, we have an open dialogue with me and Bruce. And then whoever is going to replace him. So, thanks.
Alderman Molson?
Nothing tonight.
Alderman Starr?
Nothing tonight.
And Alderman Wilson?
Beautiful day today.
Yes.
Correct and bring it up. I missed the country road. But love the town.
I got crocus blooming in my backyard.
Nothing else.
Very good. Thank you. All right. That makes us ready for the city administrator report. Sean?
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. We'll start with the wastewater department. They have normal operations and maintenance with no current major breakdowns. They did have an after-hours call recently that they determined there was no blockage in the line. They had also worked on the Centennial Hills lift station that we've been having some issues with, working with our engineers to do that during the storm on Friday night. So, props to the employees that were out there working on that during the elements. Each year they do a testing, disinfectant testing for both plants, and all the testing has gone well this year, no issues. They do that after everything's sat over the winter. So everything's good there. For finance, we had our internal controls training this past week. We've learned a lot about that process. We discussed today with the department directors the purchasing policy, the new purchasing policy, and reiterated the protocols for that policy as we approach the new fiscal year. We've been working on finalizing the budget, finalizing the audit. We're planning and preparing for an upcoming internal audit with our auditors. And the auditors will be in town tomorrow to observe the electric inventory process. And we've been working on cleaning up the financials and creating new codes to help us better monitor our financial systems. She's also been working on setting goals with new staff, working on a few economic development projects. As you all know, we've been working on the downtown sidewalk project, working with the contractors and our engineers. And Kathy's been diving into the PCA numbers and working on Public Works RFQ, Public Works Building RFQ, to finalize that. For the street and water department, our superintendent gave a water presentation to the Rotary Club this past week and plans on giving one on the street department here in the upcoming weeks. Crew's been focusing on cleaning out ditches and cleaning out drop headlands as we approach the rainy season. They've been working on street prep work, patching prep as we prepare for 2026 street plan. They are working to replace the motor on the scraper now that we have that repaired. We now need to fix the motor in it. And catching up on water services, we can take a fiber is now installed, and our crews can take a break from the numerous amount of locates that they've been doing over the past year. We do have an open position in the street department that will be getting posted as soon as possible. For the police department, we did want to mention the 2 deputies that were killed in the line of duty in Christian County. Our condolences go out to that department and to their families. We did notice we did turn the water tower blue in honor of those 2 deputies. We currently have 44 active cases for code enforcement. We've closed 33 this year, and we have had 12 new open for the month of February. As mowing season approaches, we anticipate quite a few more cases to open. We're also working on an informational brochure for our tree maintenance program that will be starting soon. So we'll be sure to provide that information to you all as well as to the public, and that's primarily focused on dead and diseased trees. We have joined the Internet Crimes Against Children program. We've had 2 of our staff have been accepted into that program, which will allow us now the tools and resources that we can use for investigations with Odessa. We now have our MOU with Higginsville for a quick response team. We've met with Higginsville and started the development of that team from the early stages at this point. The last scheduled public event for the public safety sales tax put on by Chief Thompson Coffee with the Chief will be this Friday morning at the coffee house. So please join and stop in for a cup of coffee. We've had a couple residents call and request a tour of the current police facility, so that is an option that's available. You can contact the chief and he can set that up for you. We do have municipal court tomorrow, and no municipal court is scheduled for the month of April due to the election. We did have minimal storm damage from this weekend's storms. We had a small outage, and due to a lightning strike that took out a fuse, was reported at about a 30-minute outage. There was some minor tree damage and flooding, but crews were able to help. All of our crews from all the different departments were able to help where needed. And then we are working on putting together an RFP and the documentation for the animal control facility that's contingent on budget approval. For the electric department, they have completed the work, or they're about to finalize the work for the Rodmacher plant for their transformer installation. They're also completing the project for Wright Road, which will be completed soon. The power plant roof repair is almost complete. We've done some boring at the Taco Bell location, which is almost complete, and then we'll be able to move that from overhead to underground. And we're working on the bid documentation to order the wire for the downtown sidewalk project. And we do have a need for a repair with our generator that's located at the electric plant, which we now have a maintenance contract to be able to get that repair completed. For community development, we're working on updating our current zoning map. So it hasn't been updated in a few years, so we're going to get that updated and available to the public on the website. And then we're also working on utilizing Laserfish. We're focusing on getting all of the Board of Alderman documentation and all of our planning and zoning documentation included into Laserfish, which is our record management system. For the city clerk, she's currently out at the annual Spring City Clerks Conference this week, but we did finalize the special event for the farmers market, which will be each Thursday starting April 9th to October 29th from 4 to 7 p.m. at Railroad Park. We now have chicken permits, dog permits, and solicitor's licenses available to be applied for on the city's website, not just in person. City staff has been working with the public committee on the 250th celebration, along with our fireworks celebration, which we have. And Again, we had a city hall staff training for Laserfish, our records management system, we did that this past week. And that is everything for the city clerk. And then I also have, I do want to just put together a written statement for the ECA update. So I'm going to do that really quickly before we move on to the rest of our agenda. So in regards to the energy cost adjustment update, I want to address a few questions that have been raised and provide a clear update. As many of you know, at the last meeting, I provided a historical overview of the ECA. The ECA dates back to 2005, and the current version of the ordinance in place today was adopted in 2019. Based on our review of our records, residents were not charged an ECA fee prior to April of 2019. If residents review their utility bills, they will see the ECA listed beginning in April 2019 and continuing to the present. By its nature, the ECA varies from month to month. The adjustment reflects the cost of purchased power that the city receives from its electric supplier. Because those costs fluctuate, the ECA will also change from month to month. At this time, the Board of Aldermen has not determined whether refunds will be issued or what the amount of any potential refund may be. City staff are currently reviewing records to determine how far back a refund would apply, if one is necessary, and how any refund process would work. The board will vote on the final decision. There has also been some concern expressed about how these funds have been handled. Funds collected for the electric utility are maintained within the electric fund, which is used only for electric operations, infrastructure, and related services. The electric fund does make a transfer to the general fund, which covers shared services that support the utility, such as utility billing and administrative support. City staff have implemented the ECA calculation using the formula that was developed by engineers at the time the ordinance was implemented in 2019. Staff have continued to follow that formula as it was originally provided. Working with the city's new engineers, we have now developed an updated and simplified calculation. The ordinance being reviewed tonight clarifies and streamlines the ECA formula and removes additional factors that were not specifically referenced in the 2019 ordinance. This updated ordinance will take effect immediately. Finally, I want to clarify one point of confusion regarding tonight's agenda. The ordinance related to the ECA is the only item on the Board of Aldermen that the Board of Aldermen is voting on regarding the ECA. The agenda originally contained a typo referencing an ECA rate study. The rate study being presented is actually a broader review of all electric utility rates, not just the ECA. So I do think the version that you have tonight in front of you, the board, again, Karen's not here, so you didn't get the amended agenda brought to you in front of you tonight, but we do have the amended agenda presented on the screen, and that's also what's on the city's website. So I do think it created some confusion because the original agenda said ECA rate study. The rate study results that are being presented tonight are for the entire electric utility, not just the ECA. That's all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. All right, before we get into public comments, please limit them to 3 minutes. Okay? Remember, these are public comments. This isn't a public forum. Don't expect to have dialogue back and forth with the board. The comments are very, very important. The board will listen to them, and hopefully they are, I think they're all ECA addressed. So during our discussions, the board will take into account what your comments are, I'm certain. So just remember, 3 minutes, and board, go back and forth. Got it? First up, Mr. Tony Easter. ECA. Mr. Easter, state your name, your address, and board.
My name's Tony Easter. I live in Ward 1, 210 East Main Street. Honestly, I'm just fed up with it. How it's handled from the word go. Saying this was not about kicking blocks down the road. It was a crony excuse for dropping a bomb without a plan to fix it. There's a huge difference between being proactive and being reckless. By choosing to go public before finding a fix, the community was given chaos instead of clarity. That's not transparency to me. It's just a lack of compassion for the people that have to deal with the fallout. And I trust our current city leaders will get this fixed.
Right. Thank you, sir. Vicky Martinez. Come on up.
Live at 409 East Walnut Street, Odessa, Missouri. I was in work on starters. And mostly I want to kind of mirror the same thing that Mr. Easter said before, is that the way that this has been handled, I feel has left a lot to be desired. I'm grateful that Mr. Whitsitt brought it to the public's attention. I have been most of my life a long resident of Odessa. I graduated in 1992. I returned to the city of Odessa in 1999. Purchased my home in 2015. I have every single bill that I've ever received from the city of Odessa since 2015, if anyone's interested in seeing them. But my biggest concern is, yes, the ECA calculation made its first appearance in April of 2019, for the bill that was due in May 2019. And then the CIRCA, CIRCA, made its first appearance 2 months later, and it's been part of our bill over time. I don't understand, and I'm not going to pretend that I know how to understand the calculation. But I do feel that if we're going to be completely transparent with the citizens of Odessa, that a full audit should be performed from 2019 on with these being part of our utility bill. And I would like to see that residents are also going to be refunded or plan for refund. Because I myself have been on the level paying plan since I purchased my home. I was a single mom with 2 kids. I needed to be budget friendly, and in so doing, the city offered that as an option, and I gratefully accepted it. However, in August of 2024, my fiance and his 3 children moved in with me, and we noticed a substantial increase in our utility bills. I'm probably remiss in saying, yes, 3 or 4 extra people can make a difference in one's utilities. However, my level payment was extremely surprising when last spring I had a bill due in May of 2015 of over $3,000 for the shortfall that had not been charged to me the entire year. And so I do wonder how much that was a miscalculation of the ECA and CIRCA fees. And considering myself very fortunate that I have funds available to pay this, but however it came at a cost. Many people I know as residents in this city live on fixed incomes, limited incomes, or they don't make enough money to make these kinds of utility payments. And I would like to see an audit done and performed with complete full transparency to all citizens in the city of Odessa, and that a plan for reimbursement or refund also be issued.
Thank you for those. Thank you. Michael Barker. All right, sir. Thank you. Gretchen Dorman. Come on up.
Gretchen Dorman, I'm at 206 West Mason Street, apartment A. Just moved in, hasn't even been 2 months. From when I moved in with the deposit and my electric bill, I have paid $608 for water, for sewer, for trash. I called 3 times the month I was there for somebody to come and get the trash. It took 3 phone calls, and I'm still charged for trash. I got on the website for City of Odessa residents, so I'm speaking for everybody, and I'm speaking for the ones that are not here. They're mad. They're upset. I'll be 67 in August. Single mom,
2 boys. I've always had to work 3 and 4 jobs. I'm tired of working. I work outside of the home. I collect Social Security, but with these bills, it's not enough. I feel like I have to not turn on my lights. I went and got some puck lights because I can't afford the electricity. I don't wash because I'm afraid of electricity. I don't bake. I don't cook. It's miserable. I don't even use my heat. They use the excuse. Oh, but, it was cold. I don't use my heat. I like to bubble up. My heat is not on. If I have to do the breaker box, I'll do the breaker box. But this is ridiculous. And I also asked for someone to come out and show me my meter because, I don't know, maybe I'm on somebody else's meter. Maybe I'm sharing with the hair salon that just moved in. But my neighbor across the hall, young kid, probably not even 30, his bill was over $500 for 1 month. $500. He works 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. I can't do that. I'll do it if I have to. But I feel like I can't. Well, what about Christmas? What about our lights? And cooking and baking for our families. And I've got 300 people on Facebook that they've been robbed. Why are the streets so bad? What about the potholes? Where I lived, I had to shovel the snow so I could get in and move. I'm just upset, and I'm upset for everybody because it's not right. I never in my life paid $308 for utilities. Never in my life, ever. And I've lived in small towns. I'm from Texas, so I know all about big towns. But this needs to be an audit. It needs to be an audit outside of this area to come in because something's not right. And I've been told that nobody checks the meters. So I know I'm over my 3 minutes, okay? I'm speaking for everybody, and I haven't even been here 2 months.
Okay, thank you. All right. Does anyone else want to make a public comment before we move on? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to old business. There is none. New business, we will start with bill number 2026-07. Introduction and reading of bill number 2026-07, amending the city code regarding electric rates and energy cost adjustment. We'll take a motion to approve the first reading.
I make a motion to introduce first reading of bill number 2026-07, amending the city code regarding electric rates.
Motion second. All in favor? 5-0. Discussion.
I want to add, put in front of you guys the formula. It was suggested that we possibly attach the formula with the ordinance to provide more context. The formula was provided by our legal engineer and implemented or written into the ordinance by our attorney. There is, in the second sentence,
This is where the amendment comes in regarding electric rates, correct?
this is
We're not
a
setting electric rates.
temporary ordinance to simplify the GCA calculation. So the last sentence starts with for each 0.01 cent increase or decrease. That should be a continuation of the sentence back of itself. So it should say, increase the rates charged all purchasers of electricity from the city for each 0.01 cent increase. simply simplifies the formula and it adds a further explanation on how we use the 3-month rolling average. Before it just listed 3-month rolling average, but it didn't tell us exactly how to do that. It didn't say the current month plus the 2 preceding. It was kind of vague on what those 3-month rolling average, those 3 months consisted of. So this cleans that up a little. And it also, obviously, the equation prior to included that 12-month rolling average of loss, which helps smooth out the ECA, but that wasn't included in the original 2019 ordinance. So we're taking that out of the formula, and of course, it wasn't in the ordinance to begin with, but not including it in this ordinance. Again, this is a temporary fix to get us through these current months. There's been comment that, we're still charging the incorrect formula. We are not. We have adjusted the formula to its simplest form, and this ordinance revision matches that formula change.
Does this include unbilled hours that we discussed whether that can be included in that or not? The previous ordinance didn't specify, and we were putting unbilled hours or unbilled kilowatts in that. What does this current one say about that?
I don't believe the new contract.
I will not pay this.
I think I'll just specify that.
Everybody who you are today.
My name is David Brown. I work with Dr. Martin in the new point here in the city under contract. So to clarify that portion, I tried to put the language in that we are only doing the bill. There's no use of the unbilled or any subtraction or anything else.
Anything else?
Especially for David before
So before you go to the point, 0.802 cents per kilowatt hour, that is temporary also until we set the final rates later.
Correct. So part of this study will also include recommendation for a new ECA rate.
Is that part of the benefit for the budget?
As part of the total cost of service study.
You're correct.
Thank you.
Anything else for David while we're batting up here? No. Thanks, sir. All right, any other questions in general or discussion?
I want to reiterate that this is temporary and allows us to implement the adjusted formula. So we're not charging the old ECA calculation to residents currently. This helps us align ordinance with the new adjusted calculation, but it is temporary. After the cost of service study has been presented to you all, we will adopt a new rate ordinance, including the ECA, including the annual adjustment, and including new class, potentially new class structure and new rate structure. That's all we want to do.
Okay.
So if we move forward, we'll want to make sure that we approve this as an ordinance with the scrivener's error and the attached exhibit or attached formula.
Yeah, to me, this eliminates the reason for the misinterpretation that resulted in the overcharge. The ordinance didn't match the formula didn't match the ordinance, and that's the reason why we're dealing with what we have today. And it's been something that the current board inherited from 7 years ago. So now we're trying to get the two reconciled, and this makes it match. So this solves the problem going forward. We still have to deal with what the rate should be, what the ECA base rate
to second reading.
Can I say something?
Yes, absolutely.
I was on the board in 2019. I voted for this because it was a formula that they gave to us, and it sounded, I mean, it was a formula. You can't, I don't really know how to say this, you can't really pinpoint in like 3 years from now, this whole thing is going to be different.
It was presented in a way that, took a volatile problem that the city faced and smoothed its rough edges for our customers.
So we, as a board, in 2019, we looked at it, we did not all agree on it, but it passed. And so, since 2019, I mean, you want to blame somebody, you can blame me, you have to hear the ones. But we felt like that this was a good recommendation for the residents. And like I say, you've got 6 people trying to decide for 5,000 people, and we're sure not going to make everybody happy. But, you know, it wasn't a mistake. It was something that we did deliver. It wasn't a mistake. And so now, from now on, it's going to be changed. And, I mean, I pay the same rate as you guys. I'm a resident. And so I understood that that was part of what my job was. So that's what I would say. Sorry, if anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer them. I don't know if I can, but I've been a long city group member now, and this was, at the time, it was a good formula for us. So that's
Anything else? All right, we'll move to second reading. Go ahead.
If I would, John suggested 2 different amendments, if we wanted to make those, that would be proper now, if we're going to.
You're talking about Scrivener's errors and the formula. Yeah.
If those were going to be.
Are they going to be made? I would assume so.
I understand that.
That would just be a motion to, make the adjustment to the 5th sentence for and add.
Okay, so how do we vote?
A motion to correct the Scrivener's error and to add the formula as in exhibit.
I move to
Correct.
correct the Scrivener.
Hold it, I gotta read through this first, right?
Not yet, we're just doing it.
All right.
So a motion to correct the Scrivener's error and add the formula as in.
And to add the formula as it's good. I said all this. Okay.
Okay. And this is on the second reading.
This would just be a voice vote to approve that.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. All in favor? 5-0. So now we move to the second reading. Introduction and reading of bill number 2026-07, amending the city code regarding electric rates and energy cost adjustments with Scrivener's error and the attached formula. Second reading as ordinance.
Move to approve bill number 2026-07, second reading as an ordinance.
Alderman Kerrigan seconds. Roll call.
Alderman Blackfeet.
Yes.
Vincent.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Crabtree. Kerrigan.
Yes.
Sorry. Yes. Motion carries. Ordinance number 3171.
All right, moving on to proposed resolution number 2026-09, authorizing the mayor to execute the pool management agreement for the 2026 season with Midwest Pool Management of America Limited. I would take a motion to approve. Second. We have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Yes,
Tricia.
Hi, so the park board reviewed this, we, are comfortable with the, proposed change this year. Our attorney did mention that they wanted to make sure that we could use the $3.5 million in liability insurance, and then actually follow up with the $2 million general liability and $2 million in, with our umbrella policy. For 26, the, salary part of the budget went up $4,795, which is to be expected with the increase in minimum wage. We didn't feel like that was out of line given those increases. And then the actual management fees went up $1,840 more, which again, increased by also increases also fair given price changes. The salary budget, that's $89,350, that's a not to exceed, so if the weather were not so good, it will go up.
Questions for Janet? Thank you. Any further discussion? With a motion and a second on the table, I would vote. All in favor? 5-0, resolution carries. Next up, motion to approve. This is a motion to approve authorizing the mayor to sign a letter of intent with Region F Hazardous Waste to demonstrate the city of Odessa's commitment to providing hazardous waste services. I will take a motion to approve the motion.
Make a motion to approve the motion for Region F Hazardous Waste Committee.
Second.
Second.
Alderman Wilson seconds. Discussion.
Staffing cost is covered by,
Yeah, Sean can address that.
They're not paying for any staffing costs, they're paying for the training. This is a partnership, so our portion is the staffing technically. So we felt like having it at the water plant and doing by appointment only would minimize our staffing requirements because we have to have an employee at the water plant at all times. So we felt like, if someone does call to make an appointment, that employee can leave the water plant, can go meet that person at the containers, collect their items, and then go back to servicing the water plant with minimal impact to their day-to-day operations that they're doing within the plant. They requested or asked that we do maybe one day a month for like a morning, like every month on the first or the first Monday of the month, we do a half a day where we set up shop at the containers and people can just come and drop things off. But we felt like because we're using city staffing time, that would take away from our abilities to continue operations as we're providing service. And so that's why we chose the by appointment only as opposed to a specific day of the month. But they are providing, they're committed to providing a training to their employees. We are requesting that they provide training to 2 of our employees to increase our coverage if someone's sick or whatever the scenario may be. It allows us to be able to provide the services even more efficiently to the people who are needing them.
Is there volunteer opportunities or is that a liability?
It is a liability issue. The only people that are able to collect the items are those that are trained, which is why we wanted to be sure that there were 2 employees trained as opposed to just 1. So those employees will have keys and to the containers so they can lock and control them. The training consists of learning a lot about the different types of hazardous materials, what can be next to each other within the container if something spills and gets another item. What do you do? How do you clean that up? That type of thing. So they are hazardous materials. But there's also currently no household hazardous waste program in all of Lafayette County right now. So this is something we've been working on doing, and we saw the opportunity for partnership with Region F, and we've been working with them to try and put this program together. Any questions?
So who would be providing the containers?
Region F would be providing the containers. They would also be responsible for ordering the containers and then coordinating when they're picked up and dropped back off
And
with
then-
our staff.
So that has it, that we, the city of Odessa would be carrying us with the pickup, transfer, disposal.
No.
And then, so just, I think, my personal opinion, I have a concern with it being at the water plant. Just because I have a concern with it being at the water plant.
I understand your concern, but they are, special containers made for this, and they will be at the entrance, so they won't be anywhere near the water that we're providing to our residents at all. Not even close.
Do you have a maximum level of water you can accept?
It would just be what's able to be fit into the container. Once the container's full, then we wouldn't be able to take any more appointments until it's not in the container.
Do you know the size of the containers, or the 5 gallon, 20 gallon?
No, they're like large shipping containers. Like those non-waste container type of size.
Correct, when you're gathering waste like that, it has to be full packed in small containers like you.
Oh,
So that's part of the training.
that's a part.
So that's called an MAQ, maximum level quantity. What is our satellite disposition going to be for that? Because that is a concern, even though they are designed for quantity. Barrels do leak, they do have problems. Small amounts is okay, but if we get into large amounts,
Well,
that could be an issue.
once we go through the training, we can determine if there is, within the training itself, there may be a maximum, but if we want to create our own maximum within the training program that we are willing to allow, I'm sure we could do something like that. We can work with
the state with the permit. The training covers training on what to
We
do.
wouldn't take anything that the state wouldn't allow us to take.
Anybody else? All right.
And the purpose of it being at the water plant was because the plant has secure fencing. We have concerns with it being like where the trash containers are today. People could just drop off the hazardous waste outside the container, and then we're left to deal with, if it wasn't something we're able to collect, and we have to try to dispose of it. And obviously, there's a reason why it couldn't be disposed of in the first place. So if it's in a secure area, fenced-in area that can only be accessed by employee, that allows some oversight from city staff.
Securing is a requirement, say, stuff like that. Is there an opportunity to put it at the electric department to have plants as well? I know it's a lot smaller, we got a lot more space out there, but is there an opportunity to put it somewhere else so we don't have that risk? Potentially, even though it's low, it'd be nice to mitigate it altogether.
Sure. That's something we can discuss, yeah.
Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor of approved motion? 5-0. Motion is approved. All right. Next up, presentation of fiscal year 2026, 2027 budget assumptions and capital improvement plan.
We made it to the finish line, folks. Sent out the final budget numbers to you in your packets. There were a couple of things to note. We really wanted this 9th Street ARPA project to be done in this budget cycle, and the railroad is still holding us up with their right-of-way issues. So we're going to have to continue it into the next year. So I went ahead and built the rest of that project into the next budget year. So that made a pretty big change in the overall budget because of that. Our personnel budgets, the loggers increase came in, and it increased to 10.2 and 10.3, I believe it was, for standard or general and police. So I went ahead and made the adjustment so we can see where that puts us and keeps us balanced with the budget. One thing was pointed out in the fee schedule. I did not update the fee schedule correctly, so, and I'll send this back out to you when we do the other. We are not changing the electric rate from last year. If you remember, we've always do our 3%. Based on what our ordinance has said, we are leaving it flat until we get through this rate study. So, the portion of the rate schedule, the fee schedule, will show last year's rates, and then the budget was written according to that.
The budget is accurate for what it should be.
The budget is accurate, fee schedule was not updated.
So the fee schedule in the budget.
You have two different things. When you approve this, you're going to approve a fee schedule, and you're going to approve a budget. And they kind of rely on each other, but they are two different documents.
Fee schedule does have an increase, and it also says, I think, I think that.
That's what I said. I did not update that, and that is correct now. Any questions, thoughts, processes before we go? The plan is to approve the budget at the next board meeting. It will start April 1st, so our departments are anxiously awaiting, trying to get bids put together and requests for proposals and qualifications for the projects that we have coming up.
I'd like you to kind of check my math mentally a little bit, Kathy.
Sure. On that.
Maybe you can. If I own a $250,000 home, market value, 19% assessed value, my assessed value is $47,500 at 53 cents per $100. That means I'm paying 70 cents a day to the city of Odessa for my taxes. $255 a year.
Not much. I don't have that in my head. I can definitely verify that that math is correct, but we don't have a huge property tax. On your, did you bring this stage up, it's the tax revenue distribution form, and it's page 7 in the budget book. You see the lion's share of our property tax revenue does go to the school district. Odessa has the little gray part over there towards the left, the 6.7 goes to our general fund. And then we have the big red part that goes to our parks fund. Those are our taxes for property tax. So even though I pay however much, $2,500 for my taxes, the city of Odessa is not getting that full $2,500. They're getting close to $2,500. Any other questions? Okay.
Is there anything that's been concerning you or anything along the line? Now's the time as opposed to our next meeting.
Okay, we will button this up. I'll get the fee schedule updated and get everything back out to you for approval in 2 weeks. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right. Mr. David Brown. A presentation on the electric utility rate study.
I've got a pretty good cold, so if I am not here, please have me repeat. And it's probably gonna be worse than put this thing in my mouth, so I don't cough. So far, it's working. Let me deliver this before I start. some comments as I start. I want everyone to understand that this is completely a model set up on the data that I've been given. I do my best, great pains I take to make sure that this represents what was shared with me about how the utility works, how your finances work. I take time to look through the ordinances to make sure that they match. I was on top of this as you were bringing up other things at the same time. But what we're going to have in here is information that we can use to determine what you want to do with the rates going forward to best serve the utility and the community. And I'm going to show you some things that I don't think you know about where you are right now that may be a shock. Maybe not. Maybe you'll know. So here's the topics I chose. I think that will pretty well cover everything. So the first part is what factors go into the costs and the pressures that really drive how energy costs every day. And the next part I will cover will be then the results that are very much specific to your situation and your rates and the way they're constructed currently. I will look at how that cost impacts the rates that you have and where the discrepancies or changes should be. I have actually changed 3 times on what I wanted to say with recommended rates. So take the recommended word here for a little grain of salt. But when I'm done, I will settle on one case. I promise. It won't probably be the one that's labeled right now. I spent a couple nights working on this in my head since I finished the study, trying to determine what was best for Odessa. I will cover some alternate rates, obviously, so there will be 2 or 3 options here. The third thing there is split commercial, and the small and large commercial is one of the things that we'll look at for consideration. And then I'll compare your current rate and your cost of service point to other rates that were chosen from either towns of about the same size, or there's a couple that were actually asked for me to actually look at, so I included those. After that, an interesting, a little bit of information about how your 3%, I'm going to say quote, 3% increase of your what's called the AOA adjustment, how that really actually turned out, what was really going on there. It was not 3%, it was a lot less. That's the surprise bit, I'll show you. And then a summary with maybe recommendations still aren't really correct, but the recommendations overall, and then I'll finish with what my real recommendation is. So next slide, please. These won't be too surprising for most. There are a few things here that people may or may not know about. Your population growth is currently running less than 1% a year. In fact, from the census of 2023 and the extension of that through models that are used by those organizations, you're running about 54 new people every 10 years, which is only 5 to 6 people a year increase. Now, I've seen decreases, there have been drops. It's not always an increase, but 5.4 people, correct me if I'm wrong, with 5,000 people, that's not even the birth rate. So people are probably leaving more than coming, which is not what we want. So that's not great news. I'm having a lot of those. So it wasn't a strong pressure on lowering rates because we don't have more people in place to help pay for the cost of our power. So it's not as thin out as we would like. So as you have fewer people, some of the overhead costs don't change, and so things are going to cost more. So that's not fun. The second problem I have is also a positive, not positive for us, but a positive pressure on the pricing, is the wheeling charges charged by Evergy to take power from NPUA's pool and get it to Odessa is increasing. In fact, there was an announcement for this next fiscal year that there's a 23% increase in the wheeling cost every month. It's going to be 23% higher than it was That's a 4% increase in overall cost. So that's another pressure in the wrong direction. The average all-in cost of MQA currently runs between $89.94 per megawatt hour, or as you like to see it, usually the $0.0899 dollars per kilowatt hour, and a maximum of $114.9 per megawatt hour. So there was at least one time over the last 3 years where it was accepted, but it was MQA's cost, and there was not much anybody can do about it, so of course they paid. I'm sure all the cities and schools were screaming on that day, on that month. All right. Also, inflation is obviously going in the wrong direction. We hope someday with all the promises from above us, that those are going to come through one day and our inflation is going to slow down and we can drop. Great. But I'll show you the cost price index chart, which shows where we're heading right now. Capital improvement and reserve funds are part of the required revenue for utility. Without them, we can't make repairs, we can't respond to emergencies, and we can't build the service for people who do need them. So those are absolutely hardwood for the utility. And we haven't really been collecting as much of that as is needed. However, we didn't know this because the ECA thing kind of hit somebody. So in the balance, that's also, unfortunately, a slight positive pressure on the rates. Yeah, next slide. So I hate starting with all the bad news, but it's how I started to do it. This is the growth chart. It looks really nice, but if you can see the scale, you'd realize it's not very flat. The top line on the bottom is actually green, and it's hard to see. Is actually the rate of change here in Odessa. It ends up at a 0.78% per year increase. There was a great big hump way back. We need to recreate that. This chart has other numbers, but it's really just the same analysis that I reviewed. Next slide. This is the cost price index, and the little picture at the bottom right is actually on purpose. It's not just decoration. This is meat, eggs, milk, and I think bread is in this too. So this is across the country, nationwide, looking at the price change of those commodities together. You buy one of everything that we buy in household, and they follow the pricing. It is starting to flatten out. Maybe we hope like to come down, so it is flattening. But it has been on an upward trend for a long, long time. I know we all feel that. Next slide. So now we get into the function of how the cost of service actually works. And this is important to understand because when I start looking at how rates are formed and how your cost is right now, we have to understand what it's actually saying. So here's the hard part. Everybody has a different kind of rate structure. Everybody either has a heavy on the base charges, we call it Odessa, the connection charge, or they have a high energy charge, which is your favorite one to look at, I know those mine, the dollars per kilowatt hour. Or they have a large demand charge, or all three. Typically, the one is elevated, the other one looks really nice and small, and sometimes that's the way the market gets so much power to attract people to town. And some do it really well. So, how do we compare two different sets of rates and actually talking about the same thing? What if somebody's on time of use and somebody's on converted for life? And there was a meeting, the second part is a meeting for most of you. But that's where, as you graduate through certain amounts of use, the rate changes. Converted, it increases. And decreasing is just called decreasing wise. Not normally done because we usually try to put pressure on by using so much electricity to reduce the cost of the utility and everything else. So this chart, I put the apples and oranges with bananas because it kind of is what we're going to do. the seen as $1 per kilowatt hour because it includes the whole picture. Whatever type rate, it all gets boiled down to what the bill would be at each point of use. And then it's all in one number. So that's what that all says. So it's a little confusing when you first see it until someone explains what's going on. So hopefully that was next slide. So now, the big hurrah at the end of the study is to arrive at what does your power cost for each rate. And where you were currently is the second number, so 0.1072 is the all-in bananas number for residential. That is actually your current today rate. Some people won't believe that. That's what it is. The very first column is what your cost, the cost to provide that power per kilowatt hour for this utility for you as a resident is 0.1294. Now the difference in that